Hello, everyone, and welcome to YouTube channel War on Politics. My name is Sofia Troshchuk, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guest. It's Dr. Yuri Felshtinsky, a Russian-American historian. Dr. Felshtinsky, hello, nice to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, August was eventful. Donald Trump met first with Vladimir Putin and then with Volodymyr Zelensky. The New York Times called it a spark of diplomacy. In your opinion, will there be a fire of diplomacy or will the spark go out?
Well, unfortunately, if we leave behind rhetoric and emotions, which is difficult, nothing changed. Since 21st of January, nothing changed. Trump does not apply any pressure against Putin. There is a lot of talking, a lot of those, 500% secondary tariffs, so sanctions, 100%, 10 days, 12 days, 15 days, but nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And unfortunately, I do not expect anything to happen for reasons which we could try to understand. Putin does not apply any pressure against Trump. Does not apply any pressure against Putin. Putin obviously feels himself very comfortable with Trump. He knows that there is no danger coming from Trump against him. So I think, again, nothing should be expected. And the same relates to relations between Trump and Zelensky, and even between Trump and European leaders. Europe changed a lot since the 21st of January, but Putin did not, Zelensky did not, and Trump did not. Europe came to understanding that the United States is not going to help it during this war, that it should rely on its own abilities to defend Europe against Russian aggression. It's obvious for Europe that this aggression is real, that the danger is serious, and that probably even sooner or later, this war will escalate into a European war. Specifically because in September, which is very soon, we will see so-called military exercises of Russian troops in Belarus. And we know that similar exercises in 22 led to Russian invasion of Ukraine. So we really should expect another invasion of Russian troops from Belarus, either in the direction of Kiev or in the direction of Eastern Europe.
Donald Trump said that Europe should provide security guarantees to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire, and the US will only be slightly involved in this process. In your opinion, how can Europe protect Ukraine now?
Well, first of all, let's indicate that soon after that meeting, Trump indicated that there would be no US troops in Ukraine. And I have to add, there would be no US troops in Europe assisting Ukraine as well. So United States is out. The question is what kind of guarantees Europe could deliver and give to Ukraine. And I think the most honest answer and correct answer was given by Chancellor of Germany, Merz, who said that the best guarantee for Ukraine, is Ukrainian army. And this is precisely correct. Ukraine actually has the strongest army in Europe, and this is the only guarantee which Ukraine has at this point. Yes, Europe helps, tries to help, and will help because Europe has no choice. Europe knows that if Ukraine is taken, then the Russian army will not go back home to become a peaceful, crowd. Develop in Russia, it will move to Europe. Well, it first will move to Moldova, but then it will move to Eastern Europe. So it's this understanding in Europe is clear. And the talking about guarantees, I think it's slightly misleading for everybody because the only and best guarantee so far which exists is NATO. But I think after meeting of Trump and Putin in Alaska, it's clear to Putin. I don't know how much clear this is to Trump, but it's clear to Putin that there is no NATO. Because we know from the interview which Witkov gave to CNN soon after the meeting in Alaska was over, that they actually discussed Russian invasion of Eastern Europe. And because Putin was giving his guarantees to Trump if ceasefire and if Ukraine capitulates. And the only guarantee was that Putin promised that if Ukraine give to him all those territories which he demands, he promises not to invade Ukraine again and not to invade any other country. What means that the issue of invasion of those other countries was discussed. Now, if we have NATO, then basically the only reply which Putin should get from Trump when he mentions the invasion of other European countries, that the United States would declare war against the Russian Federation as member of NATO. But Trump obviously did not mention it. So Putin knows quite well that there is no NATO. And Europe knows quite well that there is no NATO at this point, or while the Trump is in office. So the guarantees could not be given through NATO, especially when everybody is indicating that there is no way Ukraine would be able to become right now a member of NATO. And because, of course, the United States is against, and Hungary is against, and Slovenia is against, and who knows, maybe some other countries as well, right? So you need to create a new alliance, and this is kind of difficult to do very quickly. So it's probably impossible to do. So the only guarantee which Europe could get actually, or could give to Ukraine, is to try to help them with weapons, and that's what Europe should do, and that's what Europe should be doing. Probably, on smaller levels than it shouldn't do. But there is no guarantee. There is no way Ukraine will get any guarantees because Europe will not declare war to against Russian Federation unless Europe is invaded. Then we will see, of course, completely different picture. But once again, if this happens, this probably happens in September. So very, very, very soon. So we will see what would be happening in September. But it's very possible that Russian army will invade one of the Eastern European countries. Looking at the map, I would say that it's going to be Lithuania.
When we talk about meetings like the one in Alaska, what does Putin want to achieve with this?
Well, he achieved many things. First of all, remember we were discussing 500% secondary sanctions, then 100% secondary sanctions. 10 days, 12 days, 15 days, all this disappear. No mentioning about secondary sanctions, no mentioning about new deadline, nothing. Actually, no mentioning of stopping of fire in Ukraine. I mean, just capitulation. The only offer which Ukraine received from Trump after Alaska meeting was the old offer to accept all Russian conditions and capitulate. So this was the achievement number one. The achievement number two is the fact that Putin, went out of isolation. Trump nevertheless is a leader of the strongest country in the world, and she met with Trump. With the red carpet, by the way, he was applauding. When Putin was approaching him several times. This was from PR point of view for Putin. This was the greatest victory of the last years. And then once again, after this meeting or during this meeting, Putin destroyed any hopes which Ukraine or Europe or some people who support Trump in the United States had for Trump's changing his Ukrainian policy or his Russian policy. Nothing was changed. We actually today we are the way we are we were in January of 21. I mean, 21 of January of this year. So that's we are now. The only demand is for Ukraine to accept all Putin's conditions.
Donald Trump dreams of receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. For him, it's such a whim. And in your opinion, what is Putin's whim? What is so dreamy and symbolic for him?
Well, we probably could not notice that Trump mentions 6 wars which he ended many, many times. Every time he talks about Ukraine or Russia, he mentions 6 wars which he ended. Otherwise, the world would explode. Well, it's questionable that he ended any war. But this is, I guess, his belief, and the more he's saying about this, the more he believes that he deserved, at least 6 Nobel Prizes at this point. But he probably will not get it. I sincerely hope that he will not get it, or all the who knows. But there will be no peace in Ukraine, unfortunately, because Putin is not interested in stopping this war. Now Putin's goal is to take Ukraine. Nothing changed since 22. Indeed, nothing changed since 2014. He wants to have entire Ukraine. He wants to ruin Ukraine as independent state. He wants to annex Ukrainian territories, and he wants to draft Ukrainian people into a Russian army to create the most powerful army in Europe, to invade Europe, to take some territories of Europe, like the Baltic states, and to spread the influence of the Russian Federation the way it was spread during the Soviet years. That's what Putin wants to achieve. And having Trump in the White House for him is the greatest achievement of the Russian state or of the FSB since the collapse of the Soviet Union, of course, and probably since the creation of the Soviet Union, because to receive the support of Trump, in his operation of taking Ukraine is a great deal, and we have to ask ourselves why Trump is so much interested in giving Ukraine to Putin. It's an interesting question because actually the United States doesn't gain anything from Ukraine being given to Russia or to Putin. It goes against the interests of the United States, and nevertheless, Trump is pressing Ukraine to capitulate. So that's what the greatest hope of Putin is, that he would be able sooner or later, using Trump, to force Ukraine to capitulate, because he's not able to conquer it. I mean, he's fighting in Ukraine since 2014. The Donbas region, which he's demanding from Ukrainians now, which is not entirely under Russian control, he started this war for Donbas region in 2014. So after 11 plus years of war, he's not able to take even Donbas. So he's very far from his military victory in Ukraine. He's not able to take Ukraine. That's why he's hoping for Trump to help him to force Ukraine to capitulate. But again, this didn't work. And the Ukrainian, the last visit between Trump and Zelensky, the last visit between Trump and European leaders, is another indication that they're polite with Trump. They try not to irritate him. They try not to have an open conflict with him. But nothing is changing for Trump. No one actually is listening to him. No one is following his demands or statements. Nothing is happening. Ironically, nothing is happening. And Trump is creating some new plans, like to force Europe to buy American weapons, for example. He even stated that Europe will buy like $90 billion of weapons from the United States to give it to Ukraine. But this will not happen as well. This is impossible for economic and political reasons. Europe will not buy American weapons, at least in those billions or dozens of billions which Trump indicates. Europe will invest, of course, money into its own defense industry, and this is done already. But no one actually is listening. Trump. They talk to him as if he's an unstable teenager, right? Whom you should not irritate, but whose demand you should not follow.
In your opinion, what can Ukraine do in such a difficult situation?
Well, unfortunately, again, no one has choice. Ukrainians have no choice but to fight, because this is the question of Ukrainian life and death. Putin is not offering peace. Putin is offering death. And it's clear to everybody, I think, in Ukraine. So Ukrainians have no choice. They have to fight. Europeans have no choice. They have to help Ukraine, because they know, and they do know this, that if Ukraine surrenders, if Ukraine is taken, Europe is in war. Europe is going to be in war. Again, it might happen much sooner. It might happen in September. Anyway, despite the fact that Putin couldn't take Ukraine. But you see, Putin lives under illusion that the only reason he's not able to take Ukraine is because Ukraine is getting international help. Before Trump, this was American and European assistance. Now it's European assistance. So in order to stop European assistance, he might be thinking about invasion of Europe. So Europe would need to concentrate, to fight for its own independence. So we will see whether Putin would risk to open this second front. Historically speaking, usually this works against the aggressor. But since Putin is not able to take Ukraine, he might be thinking that invasion of Europe might be an easy task in comparison to the war in Ukraine.
I have one extra question. I just remembered about one news. Donald Trump said that he wants rename Ministry of Defense to Ministry of War. Did you hear this news, and probably what do you think about it?
Well, this definitely should not actually work, should not get any support with the American public, honestly, because even those people who support Trump, one of the reasons they support him is because he promised not to be involved in any wars. And he promised that America would isolate itself from all foreign conflicts. What he's actually kind of trying to do, stating that NATO is obsolete, it should be dissolved, etc. Then, of course, this goes against his desire to receive Nobel Prize for Peace. I do not think that Norwegian parliament would give a Nobel Prize to a person who renamed defense department, which would become War Department or Department of War. So I do not think this might be happening. But again, this relates to the issue of words, and it's better not to pay attention to this and try to see what's actually happening. I mean, what is happening with the United States and in American politics. So I would not be surprised if he would rename Defense Department, but I do not really think that it's very important.
So, which countries are for today very important for Russian Federation and are under the threat of?
Oh, for Russian Federation. Well,
some escalation.
I think.
I mean,
if we think about Putin's strategy, I'm sure he thinks that he has strategic goals for the Russian state, and I think the goal number one, of course, is to take Ukraine. So he would be able to proceed to Europe. And then the goal would be to establish Russian control over Europe. And then the next step would be, together with China, to start confrontation with the United States and to win the war against the United States. I think that's what plan is. And I do not think that we will witness this plan, being practically realized, and I do not think we see Russian victory in Europe. I do not think we will see Russian victory in Ukraine. But that's what Putin is planning to do. And taking into account this plan, the major partner, and unfortunately that's how it is now, of the Russian Federation is China. And for some time, China will be interested in this friendship because, again, from the Chinese point of view, Putin is weakening Russia, weakening Europe, and who knows, maybe will help China in the future to weaken the United States. And probably after this, China hopes to deal with Russia, and Putin hopes to deal with China, taking into account that Russia has more nuclear weapons than China, substantially more nuclear weapons than China has. So that's what I think Putin's plan is. So it's not limited to Ukraine. It's even not limited to Europe. It's the objective actually is to be superior than the United States, and then to deal with China. But we may consider this a dream. But Russian leaders always had different dreams. Some of them were very how to say, led to great tragedies for the entire world, like the theory of world revolution, for example, which Lenin and Stalin had. Basically ended in 1945 by Russia, Soviet Union taking the control of Eastern Europe, and then the Soviet Union proceeded and slowly was moving further in Asia, in Africa, and even in the United States. Even in America, where they took control of Cuba, which was very close to the United States. So these dreams which they have, unfortunately, they have consequences, and I expect a lot of complications and escalations before we will manage to stop the Russian aggression and to win over Russian Federation.
Analysts often underestimate the role of Ukraine in global security. It is currently a country that is confronting a major dictatorship. How can the end of the war affect global security if we talk about different ways of ending it?
Well, first of all, the question is how to end this war. And I think by now we tried everything, right? We tried diplomacy, we tried talking to Putin, we tried using United States against Putin. It did not work, unfortunately. I think the only thing which may work is if Ukrainians will get enough contemporary weapons, including long-range, missiles, and would be able to strike against the weakest point of the Russian Federation, which is Moscow. I sincerely believe that unless Ukrainians start to reach Moscow, nothing will change with the course of this war, because Putin has no reasons at all to stop this war in a format in which he's conducting this war now, he could, he really could do this forever. He doesn't care how many Russians are killed, and Russians are willing to be killed, as we see. So the only way is to try to create some incentives for him to stop this war. And I think that the only incentive is if Moscow is under attack. Then Ukraine has the strongest army in Europe. Europe is becoming stronger and stronger every day. I think actually Putin is kind of late with invasion of Europe, because Europe today is not as weak and not as unwilling to fight as it was in like 22 or earlier. So I think it's late for Putin to invade Europe, but Putin was hoping for Trump, so he was waiting for Trump to come president of the United States again and force Ukraine to surrender. This did not work. So I do not really see any success in what Putin is doing. I think he has no moves, or as Trump was saying recently, he has no cards. So Putin actually has no cards. He cannot take Ukraine. He could not force Ukraine to capitulate. He could not force Europe to capitulate and not to help Ukraine. So he's in trouble. I mean, literally, he's in trouble. But because of this, again, I think there is a possibility that he will open the second front and will escalate this war into open war with Europe. I think this is possible. One way or another, he will be defeated. The problem is that if this war escalates into European war, then the toll, the human toll, will be very, very high, because we are probably then talking about classical World War III.
Dr. Felshtinsky, thank you for this conversation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks again.
And thank you for all our viewers. If this conversation was useful for you, like and share, and see you.